Welcome to our Community Safety and Security Live Forum, United Against Domestic Violence, how JCF and support services can help. Domestic violence affects too many Jamaican families, but help is available. So this evening, we'll explore how key agencies work together to support survivors, protect the survivors, provide support, and prevent abuse. Let me pause to extend a special thank you to our forum partner, JCF Area 3, Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth, for their continued collaboration since 2022, and our sponsors, National Self-Serve Wholesale in Maypen, Clarendon, on board from 2021 when we just got started. Thank you so much, National Self-Serve, for supporting this very important conversation. And joining us for this evening's forum, we have Corporal Jahvarn Brown, Assistant Island Coordinator, JCF Domestic Violence Intervention Center, no stranger to this space. We have with us Joanie James, Social Worker, Bureau of Gender Affairs, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. Anna-Kaye Richardson, Social Services Unit, Victim Services Branch, Ministry of Justice. And let me apologize for Dr. Raphael Wellington, Clinical Regional Psychologist, Southern Regional Health Authority, who has to attend to some crisis situation right now, but we will be sure to have them on in other forums so that you can get the mental health side of this discussion. So as we keep it engaging inside the space, so we ask that you go ahead and make your comments, your thoughts, and ask your questions in the comment section there, and we will take them as the discussion progresses. So let's get into the discussion and learn how we can work together to break the cycle of domestic violence, starting with Corporal Brown. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about coming on this platform and sharing my knowledge.
Amazing. So let's start here. What steps should we take or should be taken when reporting domestic violence case to the police?
Very interesting question, as a matter of fact. There's the notion that there are steps to be followed when reporting domestic violence, but let me just inform the public tonight that there are no steps to be taken when reporting domestic violence. If you have been a victim, you can go to any police station island-wide to report that you are being affected by domestic violence. We have 10 centers across the island, and it is the centers who will deal with these matters. So when you go to the police station, they'll refer the matters to the center. However, the police will do what they can from the station level to ensure that you are protected. So go to any police station. There is no waiting period. You don't have to wait until you have been beaten or bruised 5 times. In the first instance, in the first case, you can go to any police station and report that you are being abused.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Corporal Brown, because that's a part of what we do in this space in terms of clarifying some of the misconceptions that we might have so that we make it easier for persons to access the support that they need. So how does the police ensure the safety of victims, especially in cases where they fear retaliation? Are you still with us, Corporal Brown?
Yes, you are coming in a bit choppy. I'm not sure what's happening. Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Are you hearing clearly now?
Yes, clear.
All right, fantastic. How does the police ensure the safety of victims, especially in cases where they fear retaliation?
All right. So the Jamaica Constabulary Force has a policy that deals with domestic violence, and we have standard operating procedure. Now, if a victim fears retaliation, we have something that is called a preventable arrest. So when you report the matter to the police will make a risk assessment, do a risk assessment of the case, of the matter. And if it is that, the police believes that this case is at high risk, especially for retaliation, what we will do is the sub-officer in charge will make the report, and we will apprehend the perpetrator or arrest him or her for 4 hours initially, just to calm them down, talk them through, the situation. If it is that after 4 hours, the matter seems not to be quelled, then we have to hold that person in custody for an additional 8 hours. So the preventable arrest is that we can hold a person up to 12 hours, not exceeding 12 hours, just to have them calm and, warn them as not to retaliate.
Fantastic. But someone might be wondering if there are any legal actions, emergency actions that can be taken to protect the victims immediately outside of holding, or that would be it. Holding.
Right. So there are no legal actions, there are no piece of legislations to say that we have to hold somebody, or once somebody comes in, we have to accost them. But we have in the JCF a policy that says, because we know from time to time these things will come up, and so the policy writers would have come up with an idea to say, we don't want the perpetrator to be going back and forth with the victim, so we can arrest you, and so it is called preventable arrest.
Okay, so we have with us here representatives from Bureau of Gender Affairs, Victim Services Branch, and we know that the police work closely with the Health Authority, but are there any other entities that you want to mention that the police would work closely with as it relates to domestic violence?
Well, I have to highlight this. One of our main partners is the Bureau of Gender Affairs. They're online tonight. We have Women Inc., Victim Services. We have in some cases CPFSA. We have CISOCA, a part of the JCF, and there are other agencies that we work with, but not as frequent as Victim Services and Bureau of Gender Affairs. So those are our main partners.
All right. Latibo is saying restorative justice.
Yes, and restorative justice, but to a lesser extent, but we do work with them as well.
All right. Thank you, Latibo, for chiming in there. All right. So let's bring on Anna-Kaye Richardson, Victim Services Branch, Ministry of Justice. Welcome, Anna-Kaye.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. All right. Talk us through the kind of collaboration that takes place with the police and Victim Services Branch.
Okay, sure. Sure. I'll be happy to do that. But just before, I just want to give a little background. The Victim Services Branch is part of the Social Justice Division under the Ministry of Justice. And that division consists of 3 branches: the Victim Services Branch, Restorative Justice Branch, and the Child Diversion Branch. Now, we, the Victim Services, have been working closely with the police in helping victims and also ensuring that things are done in a professional or safe manner. Now, for example, clients are referred to us from the eye care centers for continued counseling services. Also, we ourselves can refer a client that we might have from maybe with another matter that we discover that they might have an issue and would need to report an urgent matter to the police. So we work definitely closely with the police, and also to help the police extract victims sometimes. Well, we don't help them, but we make that call or talk to them to kind of assess and to extract a person who might be in imminent danger, so that they can be transported to somewhere that is safer, a relative or so. So that's basically what we have been doing in collaboration with the police.
All right. Florence Lewis is mentioning here, as you just shared, child diversion.
Yes.
Right. Child diversion is one of the collaborating partners with the JCF. All right. All right. So let's continue. How
Sure.
does the Victim Services Branch support children who witness or experience domestic violence? As you mentioned, child diversion just now.
Okay, child diversion. Let me just say that child diversion deals with kind of averting children from going before the courts. So children are basically put in a program. So I want to add a little bit more on that as I go further. But firstly, let me say that it's very important that you ask that question, because oftentimes in a domestic violence situation, children are sometimes forgotten. Or some persons might notice and say that, all right, a child is affected because of the change in behaviors. But also, some of these children themselves get a little older and become aggressive as well, get in trouble with the law. And that's where child diversion can come in from the age groups from about 12 to, I say, about 17, 18, thereabout, where they are able to put them in a program to help them to deal with whatever trauma, anger, and stuff. So it's really a great network that we have that is working here. Now, for the victim services, we do have child-friendly spaces, or spaces that cater towards children, because we understand that based on the developmental age of a child, how they express themselves or how they express the trauma that they're facing might be different from how an adult would do that. So some express it through play. So we do facilitate children playing and having spaces where they can play, where they can use therapy using art, and to be able to express themselves, and for counseling and healing to take place. So we do cater towards children from very young ages, so that we can help them to understand, all right, this is what is happening. It not necessarily mean that it is my fault that mommy and daddy fights, or mommy and daddy, this is happening with mommy and daddy, because sometimes you can see that blame that they take on. Maybe if I ignored it, or maybe if I went outside and play and never was sad, then mommy wouldn't say something to daddy and it turned out in a fight. So that's just a scenario that I'm giving an example of. So yeah, we do facilitate that to work with children, and definitely families, and to help them to come to a state of coping and dealing with whatever is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So can a victim come directly to Victim Services Branch if they say that, all right, they might not have a domestic violence intervention center in their immediate space, but they have access to see one of the officers from Victim Services? Do you take direct cases?
Well, I have had experiences like that, but I am so grateful that we work together with the police. So should in case that someone comes in and we recognize that this is happening, we do also have a mechanism to let's say, assess the risk that a person might be facing if it is a domestic violence situation or scenario. If it is that person is in imminent danger, then we can directly take up the phone, make that phone call, or have the officer come in and take it from there. So yes, we would have that, but I'm so happy that, as I said, that we work with the police who can really take the report and deal with the urgency of the matter.
All right. And that's what we're talking about, united against domestic violence. So it's not just the police, but it's the police working together with the other entities to arrest the situation
Yes.
that is really plaguing our nation. And we too have a part to play in all of this. But,
Yes.
Right. But what should a survivor do if he or she files a report but feel the system isn't working fast enough?
Well, that's a very real question. Because a lot of times you will hear persons in the media, on the news, talking about things taking too long and they're not quite sure what to do. People wanting to take up matters in their own hands. But I want to just paint a little picture for you by just telling you this brief story. So let's say Jane Doe reports physical abuse and threats from her husband, John Doe. She reports it to the police, right? She comes home one evening, though, from work to find John Doe sharpening his machete and muttering things under his breath and then at moments hurling threats at her and insults. For a client such as Jane Doe, she may not be aware that there are many working parts that takes place in when it is that she makes the report. From the moment she makes the report to the moment that, let's say, an arrest or intervention is done, there are different working parts that take place that a person might not necessarily see or be aware of. So it's important to have this information, which I'm so happy that we're doing this forum. So she may not be aware of the fact that there are investigations being done, probably community checks on this John Doe, and also different police monitoring that may take place, driving by the house occasionally. She might not be aware of different things that take place just to ensure that this matter is dealt with in a fashion where it provides the best way possible or the best interest of this Jane Doe, and a way that prevents further harm from coming to her. So I would say that it is important that we continue to just provide that information to the public and persons like Jane Doe herself, who would need to know that definitely it's not just go to and report a matter and nothing is being done, but there are many aspects that happen behind the scenes that come together to ensure her safety.
Very real story and picture that you painted just now, and I like the practicality of it because we want to be able to relate to what is being shared. But we could take it a step further. If it is that it gets to the legal stage where Jane Doe needs to access legal services, but might be tempted to relinquish this situation because she don't have the money to pay. What area in the Justice Ministry can she reach out to?
Okay, thank you for that. And that is also a very real question because persons thinking of legal think money, and I don't have this, and I can't find a way how to deal with this because I don't have a money to pay lawyers or so. But in fact, we do have the Legal Aid Council where they can provide or they can receive free and subsidized legal advice, right? Also, we do have the Restorative Justice branch as I had mentioned earlier, that is part of the social justice division, because sometimes all it would take to prevent something from going to a next level is to have a sit down, is to have both parties airing out what it is that is affecting them, what happened, and how it is that an agreement can be they can find an agreement as well. We do also have the courts, such as the family courts, that help with providing, restraining or protective orders for these clients as well.
Very useful information there. All right, let's bring Joanie James into the conversation, Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Education. Oh Lord, I'm mixing up everybody now. Entertainment, but not education, entertainment and sports. I don't know, Joanie, I'm seeing you. Are you hearing us, Joanie? Seem to be having some technical challenges there. All right, until Joanie is able to join us, we have a number of activities that's going on across the island as it relates to domestic violence intervention. Corporal Brown, go ahead and share with us the locations, the date, and what exactly will be happening.
So I'm very excited to talk about this. We have started, and this is becoming an annual event. So we have started what is known as the Domestic Intervention Cross-County Tour. We assess from the Community Safety and Security Branch Domestic Violence Intervention Unit based on the reports that we get island-wide. What we do is that we assess the spaces where we see an uptick in the numbers of reported cases. And we say that we want to infiltrate that space. So we have started the Domestic Violence Intervention Cross-County Tour on February 11th. Tomorrow, we will be in St. Elizabeth, Santa Cruz at the Camric Hardware. We're starting at 2 p.m. until 5. Come the 18th of February, we'll be at the Arbor City Shopping Mall in Montego Bay. And we're also starting at 2. Then the 21st of February, we'll be at the LOJ Shopping Center, right in the heart of Spanish Town, for another tour. And then we will end this tour on the 27th of February, downtown, Big Tree. Everybody knows Big Tree downtown. That is where we are. We want to, bring awareness of the help you can get from the JCF. And interestingly, we have some partners who have been faithful, and they're on every leg of the tour, to include Victim Services and the Bureau of Gender Affairs, among others. So we are spreading the message of stop, end the cycle, break the silence, end the cycle. We want the numbers to be going down. Last year, the numbers, we had over 8,000 reported cases. And what we're trying to do this year is to see how best we can, have those numbers on the decline. So very interestingly, we have music, we have lots of prizes and giveaways. Come out tomorrow and the other days going forward. Very exciting tour.
All right. We're using all the different avenues to ensure that we stay informed and empowered. Fantastic. All right. Let's get Joanie in. Joanie James, Bureau of Gender Affairs. And let me get the ministry right. Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports. Lord, these long names. Welcome, Joanie.
Good evening, everyone. It's a privilege to be here this evening. I am Miss Joanie James. I'm a social worker at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. A little backstory of how the Bureau started. We started back in 1972. We were formerly known as the Bureau of Women's Affairs. So we were a special committee in the Office of the Prime Minister who would integrate women international development. Back in 1972, my great-great-grandmothers or great-great-grandmother didn't have a privilege when it comes on to making decision making. So the Bureau of Women's Affairs would be the one to advocate for the rights of women. However, on March 21st, 2016, through our minister, we have rebranded and we're now the Bureau of Gender Affairs. So through our rebranded, we have a male empowerment unit. So we have a unit for men that advocate for the rights of men as well. So when you hear the Bureau of Gender Affairs, you think about advancing gender for both men and women. So the Bureau is always about advancing for both men and women. And the Bureau, we offer free counseling services for persons who are victims of domestic violence. So we have a male helpline numbers and a female helpline numbers. And later I'll tell you about the female helpline numbers and how you can access them, and the male as well.
That's right. I love the change to gender because it helps to alleviate the whole misconception that domestic violence only impacts women. So that's very good. All right. Officer Desireen McLeod from over there in St. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. All right, getting ready and geared up for tomorrow. All right, let's continue the discussion with Bureau of Gender Affairs. What national policies and programs exist, Joanie, to support domestic violence survivors?
So when you think about the Bureau, our main national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence is a 10-year program. It started from 2017 to 2027. And this is the policy that guides our programs and our initiatives. We do a lot of public education programs and we do it through the schools because we need persons from an earlier age for them to understand that there's school gender-based violence. Bullying is a form of school gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and we need the primary schools to be aware of this, the high school and the universities as well as domestic violence because it do occurs in the school. We do through faith-based organizations because the churches need to be aware, when you think about abuse, it doesn't only happen, in the wider society, but it does occur in the churches as well. We do a lot of training with the media for the media to be, sensitive on how they approach certain things that they put out when they think about persons who are victims as well. We do a lot of sessions with the PTAs because we need parents to be involved in the matter as well. We do a lot of training with the JCFs, because they are our first responders. They're the ones that will always respond when it comes on to domestic violence. So I always tell persons that the first arm of response is always the JCF as well. We do a lot of training with our community groups, our police youth clubs, our senior clubs, summer camp. Also, we do a lot of pop-ups with the JCF and we'll be with them on their pop-up tomorrow as well. We do a lot of widely public educations meeting as well. Health fair, we do financial literacy service. We realize that when it comes on to abuse, a lot of the times persons are, unaware about saving, budgeting and when they think about domestic violence, financial abuse is a form and we want our victims to be well aware of that as well as we offer for interventions. We do a first ever intervention. So once a victim calls the Bureau or we get a referral from the JCF, there is the steps that will be taken. So the victim automatically is going through the process of a first ever intervention. So the social worker from the GBV helpline, whether it be the male line or the female line, will respond to the victim. They will, offer first ever intervention, conduct the assessment, and then it is determined if the victim is suitable for the shelter or they need different added interventions. They say that they need assistance with a care packages. They say they need a little rental assistance, medical assistance based on the need that the victim needs the assistance. They say that they need the assistance in regards to being admitted to the national shelter. So an assessment is been done and then the victim is determined if they're fit for the national shelter. Why I say fit? Because not all victims are fit for the shelter. If somebody that is in needs serious medical assistance and that victim cannot be admitted because the shelter does not have the ability where an hospital or a medical facility has. While we do have a patient care assistance that can give the little day-to-day medical assistance, when it comes down to a technical thing, then that would be for a different case. But once the assessment is good, then the victim, the female victim, and her children under the age of 18 years is admitted to the national shelter. In the event that the male victim may need assistance, while there is no national shelter available for the male victim will definitely get assistance when it comes on to a special safe housing for the male.
Love that. The gender is being highlighted throughout, right? And something very important that you mentioned, well, everything was important, but something that I never knew before, and I'm sure some of my viewers maybe didn't realize too, those school interventions. Because normally you think about domestic abuse, we think of the home and not in terms of the workplace, the school, and those other areas. And another thing too that you mentioned in terms of the financial literacy, which is very important because in general, it's a conception that the women stay because of they feel trapped because of the financial dependence, but it's also true for male because it goes both ways because whichever partner has the financial capacity, the other can be at risk. Are there any other direct initiatives that the Bureau of Gender Affairs have implemented to assist those who feel trapped outside of the housing? And you mentioned a number of others. Any other area?
So I want to go back a little when you referred to it, the children, the school program, to say that when you think about gender-based violence, it always starts in the home. And a lot of the times how the perpetrator and the victim they were once victim. So when you think about domestic violence, you think about child abuse. And a lot of the times, persons who are victims of child abuse will become victim of or perpetrators of spousal abuse. So a lot of the times in the schools, we see it. You see that the boy is beating up the girl is beating up the boy, and we say, oh, we normalize it. Oh, it's nothing is wrong with that. That's where it started. And they normalize these behavior. They say mommy beating daddy, daddy beating mommy, and they accept it as normal. And that's why we do the interventions in the school for persons to be aware when they think about that aspect. As well as I want to go back a little when you think about the financial literacy. Came out from our Weird project that we found that a lot of Jamaicans don't understand the concept of saving. Even though we know our great-great-grandmother say save for a rainy day, but they don't understand. And doing these workshops, a lot of the times, persons have never made a budget in their life. They would they would work daily and they don't know where their money go. So it's a way of equipping person financially for them to be better able to be financial dependent. And it's something doing the financial literacy I always emphasize with persons. It doesn't matter how little you earn, always try to earn something. And it's something that we need to teach our younger generation. It doesn't matter how small it is, it will go a far way. The Bureau, we do a lot of apart from those interventions, we do a lot of campaigns. So we have a no excuse for abuse campaign that we know no matter what the circumstances, there's no excuse for abuse. No matter if the person is cheating on you or jacket is the thing that is going around a lot now. Doesn't matter what, there is no excuse to stay in the abusive relationship. There's no excuse to stay with the partner. There's no excuse to be abusive to the person. So you can end the relationship, get the necessary help, because guess what? The child or the children in the relationship and in the marriage will always suffer. And these children will become the perpetrator or the victim for tomorrow.
Wow. Powerful message there, right? And as you shared earlier about in the schools, I am making some connection with bullying in the schools and the workplace that's linked to all of these situations, real issues that we have there. All right, Ms. McLeod is looking forward to the continued partnership with you, Ms. James, and the rest of the gender affairs team. All right, so Corporal Brown, let's hear from you again. What can the community do? Let me make sure I get this clear. What can how can communities work with the police to reduce domestic violence?
All right. Firstly,
Hands on deck.
all hands have to be on deck. I remember when I was growing up, my grandmother used to tell me that we are, as a matter of fact, the Bible says that we are our brother's keeper. And so there is the culture of, inform of the dead in Jamaica. And so it doesn't, and so people nowadays will see anything happening to you and they will not say a word just because they might be fearful for their life, or it is that they don't care about anybody else. And so we have to bear in mind that we are our brother's keeper. And so if it's affecting somebody, think about it this way. If it's affecting somebody, it could be affecting your family members. And oftentimes we take these things for granted until it hits home. When it hits home, it's somebody close to us. Then we start seeing from a different lens. And so I want to say to community members, if you hear about any sort of abuse happening, you can reach out to the police. Our efforts are not just to come and arrest you. We are not priding ourselves only in the reactive side of policing. We are also, being proactive. So we want to come into your spaces. We want to talk to you, a one-on-one conversation. Invite us in your spaces, and we can talk. We can have conversations, to identify the acts of domestic violence, the help that you can get. And so we're just asking to report these matters, or if it is that you know of somebody who is a perpetrator or a victim, have a conversation with them. Can I say something to you? That a conversation can change somebody, and we take it for granted. Sometimes we don't know what is happening with an individual, but just talk to them. The police is your friend. We're not your enemy. And so I want to, say to Jamaicans, if you're having a problem, consult with the police. Talk to us, and we will ensure that you get the best help possible.
All right. I see Joanie nodding. Is there any other way the public can help in preventing, especially gender-based violence in their communities?
I want to take it from the angle as well. A lot of the time, from a social worker's perspective, a lot of the time, the family members, they're aware of the situation. The mothers, the fathers are aware of the situation, and they say that, oh, I'm not getting involved in their relationship or their marriage. And because of that, the child in the situation suffers because of the abuse. So I want to, when you think about domestic violence, it's a mindset. So this person, is a learned behavior. This person didn't born to say that they're going to abuse man or they're going to abuse woman. They were, they learned the behavior over time. They learned the behavior from the family member, from the mother or the father, from the community at large, friends. They have learned the behavior from somewhere. So it starts with a change mindset as family members, as community members have to want the change. A lot of the times we see the abuse occur in the community and nobody says anything. We turn a blind eye to it. So I want to appeal to the parents out there. If you know that if your child, either the perpetrator or the victim, reach out so they can get the necessary help when you think about it. Because a lot of the times, the parents themselves, they were in abusive situation before and they said that, oh, I suffered in silence, so it makes no sense. I get the help for my child because I am in the same situation. I've gone through it, so my child can get over it when you think about that. So that is the aspect of the public can do as well, reach out tap into the different agency. The Bureau of Gender Affairs is there. It's free. Persons can call, person can WhatsApp, you can send a please call me. Try to reach out to get the necessary. Create community groups. You know, the village is not there like it was before. So you know that your community doesn't have a great core when you come on to good parenting. You can create parenting group. You have the SDC that provide these supports for persons. You can create that community group where persons can get the necessary help. Where one person is weak and the other person will pull on each other when it comes on to that aspect.
Awesome sharing. All right. Remember, you can ask your questions in the comments. If you have questions, concerns, you can go ahead and post them in the comments. We'll take them momentarily. But while we wait on you, all right, Mr. Pusey is saying true. All right. So, and while we wait on the questions to come in, all right. So we heard that the Bureau of Gender Affairs offer free counseling, right? How accessible the Bureau of Gender Affairs, though? Primarily through the numbers, toll-free numbers. And go ahead and share those numbers now.
So our female helpline, the numbers is 553-0372. That is 553-0372. And persons can call, WhatsApp, or you can send a please call me. And the social worker, the female social worker will respond. The male helpline number goes 553-0387. 553-0387. So the male can call or WhatsApp and the male social worker will respond to the individual. And I must say, sometimes when we think about domestic violence, we only think about the physical aspect, but it can lead in also verbal, males, you're with your partner and she constantly, speak down to you, and then, it's impacting the children in the household. So I implore the males to reach out to the male social worker so he can best assist you in the process when you think about that. Any issues that related to men, because a lot, our society, our men don't always have the space where they can reach out and get the necessary help. And when we think about the suicide rate in Jamaica for men, it's very alarming. So I want to employ to the males, reach out to the male social worker. It doesn't matter what it may be. Maybe a custody issue, the social worker can help you to navigate the issue when it comes on to it. That's why we have the male helpline for the males to reach out. I'm employing our males to reach out to the helpline.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Are there any numbers, immediate numbers from the Domestic Violence Intervention Center? Is there a central number, Corporal Brown?
Well, the central number is 119.
That's
yes.
very central.
Very central. And we have because we have 10 centers across the island, we have different numbers for those. And I'm sure you wouldn't want me to be giving you all the numbers of the 10 centers. No. But you call the police, they will refer you to the center.
All right.
Yes.
Right. So you can send me the list of numbers and the locations, and we'll include it in the blog. We always do a blog recap for those who are new to the space. A blog recap is shared of the live forum. You can look out for that. The forum that we had on Tuesday, that blog will be out Saturday morning, and this one will be out on Monday morning. All right. StirringToResourceConnected.com. All right. I guess the viewers, they're thinking about how that has been shared here and getting some useful info. So what we'll do now is to just continue the discussion. How can survivors rebuild their confidence after escaping an abusive relationship? I know, Ms. James, you might have a lot of that to deal with.
Yeah,
definitely. How can they?
I must say to any survivor that is listening, it will take a while. And I mean, it may take years and years. I think a lot of my star client, and I say her, she's star because her case is very particular. And even after leaving the perpetrator, at times, certain things will trigger the individual. But a good source of reference when it comes on, finding that counseling definitely helps. You know, that counselor, you know, when these moments come back, this person can provide the assistance, because persons, a lot of time when victims leave their abusive relationship, things or words may enter into a new relationship, or in general, you know, with our family members, can trigger us back to the space where we were, where they were. So, you know, having that support system is definitely needed, and hence why the bureau is there. After persons leave the national shelter, the social workers do continue the process, because they going back into society is a different, you know, ball game, and, you know, starting over again, you know, getting back to the rhythm. They will need the continued support when it comes on to that. So definitely, I always tell persons, it doesn't matter how long it is, but having that support system is definitely needed. The support from the family members as well is very, very important, and that is something in Jamaica that I see that is lacking a lot of the times. There's no support that is provided from the family members.
Wow, it's deep. All right. We have a question. Mr. Pusey is always coming through. Corporal Brown, do you believe that the day-to-day police who show up at a domestic dispute between couples actually approach these situations from a serious and professional standpoint?
And well, you know, this is a tricky question. Uh, you know, I think the members should approach these, you know, reports seriously. We should take these reports seriously. Let me just backtrack a bit. Time gone by, it used to be a case where a victim comes to this police station or is called to the scene of a domestic violence, you know, incident. And, you know, sometimes when they come to the station or we go to them and we try to intervene by saying to them, these are the help you can get. No, you have sometimes when, you know, the same victim will come back to say, you know, we don't want to press charges or all that. But I want to say to police officers, that is not our business, frankly. We should treat these matters, you know, as in urgency, in confidentiality, and also with seriousness, because the truth is that from some small cases might breathe, you know, murder. And so we don't know to what extent, we don't know what is happening. And sometimes I think, you know, we treat it with callous. We treat it callously. And so I want to say to you that because of the policy that we have, that has been written and it's ratified several times, police officers now take domestic violence incidents very serious. And so it doesn't matter how small it is, the matters are being dealt with seriousness and all the care.
All right. And I would imagine it would be very important for them to do so, because if we're going to continue to share that the crime figures are down, these areas have to be addressed, because you can't have low crime figures with high domestic incidents of domestic violence. It's going to impact, right? The other one's going to impact the other. Even some of the things that we consider petty crime, those are some of the things that actually breed, right? Thank you. I respect that. All right. Awesome. All right. Question from Ms. McLean. All right. I won't try to pronounce your first name. What is the time frame that the person or persons normally stays at the shelter? Joanie?
Good question. It's done by a case by case. So once different victim will be given different time based on the case of case of assessment. Some persons, you know, they may be able to have to stay longer because they, you know, we can't send them back into the public until they're able to they're develop their own capacity. When you think about a victim staying at the shelter, a lot they will have to go through counseling services, persons, they are different areas. So what if the victim decides that when she goes back into the society, she wants to start her own business, she's able to learn a skill, Shelter team will also assist for those who want to go back into the corporate world, link them with jobs. So it depends on the situation at first, but the general time period is 6 to 8 weeks, but it's depending on the case. So it's a case by case situation. Some victims are a little bit longer than the 6 weeks, some may be early, depending on the case.
All right. So it's the individual and not the broad brush approach. Very good. All right. Anna-Kaye, do you have anything to share along that line in terms of, are there counseling services offered by, I'm trying to remember if you shared about victim services branch. What are some of the services that you offer, direct services?
Okay, we do offer a variety of services, but as it relates to domestic violence or survivors, as you say, we provide that counseling for and emotional support for victims of crime and their families as well.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Pusey, I have one here for you. Does the Ministry of Justice have any community-based intervention programs to educate and help couples resolve disputes?
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that. All right. So, I know that the ministry do have, they have been having a lot of community fairs and justice fairs that goes from point A to point B, or different parishes that highlights different services where persons can access information and even access the services there on spot. So, yeah.
Would this be an area that restorative justice covers? Because I know they do go into communities from time to time.
Yeah. I was going to add that. Thank you for that. Yes, I do know that restorative justice do have talks in the communities, and they are in the schools as well to teach the restorative justice practices as well, along with victim services to provide that counseling aspect. So I would say that restorative justice provides that mediation kind of setting, the sit down, the working through to explore. Victim services, on the other hand, provides that hand-holding process where we journey with the clients until it is that they have come to a place where they're able to cope.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful way of painting it. Very clear. Right. All right. Fantastic. And remember, you can reach out to the justices of the peace in your communities.
Yes.
They can be your first point of contact. As a matter of fact, there are trainings going on in Clarendon this week. A large contingency of justices of the peace. I think some of them are lay magistrates who were trained in that area in terms of the social services. You're welcome, Ms. McLean. All right. So Pusey, oh, cool. Yeah, shout out to the restorative justice. I realized that they work closely with Northern Caribbean University. Oh, yes. A lot's happening on that front. Sharia, I wonder if this is my brother. What determines if a victim receives counseling at the Victim Services Branch or the Bureau of Gender Affairs? I suppose, where do I go to Victim Services or Bureau of Gender Affairs?
Nothing. You can start with me.
Right.
Anything. I always tell persons that people reach out to the bureau for, doesn't matter what the issue may be, and if it's not an area that we cover, we refer them to another ministry or another agency that they can get the assistance. So you may have a simple dispute with your partner. Your partner doesn't want to contribute to the light bill, and that is considered as financial abuse. That's an area that the bureau would provide the counseling services for persons. So any issue that you may feel, any relationship issue that comes to your mind, having challenges with your partner, reach out to the bureau. That's why the social worker is there. We are there to provide the assistance. Hence why the minister established the national helpline. So easy access for the public to reach out to the bureau. Instead of calling the phone lines, we can call, WhatsApp the numbers, you can reach out to us.
Fantastic.
Thanks for
When
that.
in doubt,
Yeah,
just reach out. Go ahead
yes.
and share.
Thank you for that, Joanie. I wanted to add to that. That's good. I really like that you guys have the helpline and ways of our means for persons to reach out. With the victim services, we not only deal with persons who are victims of domestic violence, but any victim of crime. Now, our services are free. You can walk in, call in, and access the services for children and adults. We also do provide for victims of other crimes other than domestic violence, let's say children victims, court support, and we also do the same hand-holding process to provide that emotional support for the children and their families as well. So I could say that persons can reach out to either one based on their needs, but we are free and we are open to receive and to provide that assistance that is necessary.
All right. Because there's some of the entities that only deals with cases that are referred either from the police or through the courts or from restorative justice or those other areas. But you're saying that they can call and then you'll guide them from there.
They can walk in and access the
Walk in as
service
well. All right.
as well.
Fantastic. All right. I'm not seeing any other question here right now. So let's take the final insights from each of our panelists. The most important step Jamaica must take to reduce domestic violence. And we're going to start with the king, Corporal Jahvarn Brown. The king in our midst. You're muted, unmute.
All right. So let me just give you my opinion. A lot of emphasis is placed on the physical abuse. And if you ask me, most persons are not aware that there are other forms of abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse. You know, they don't know these things. And so domestic violence is skewed to, you know, the physical aspect. I want us to pay more attention to the emotional aspect, the financial abuse, because they are just as, you know, bad as the physical abuse. And so sometimes, you know, sometimes people will say that words have power. And so even though you didn't hit me or I am not bruised, you know, your words can impact me or impact a person just as much as the physical abuse. So we need to pay more attention to the other forms of abuse and not limit domestic violence to only physical. And so I would implore the other agencies, let us have a public education campaign directly, you know, speaking about the other forms of abuse and not just the physical aspect. I know that we had done some amendment to the Domestic Violence Act, which now sees the fine, you know, being increased. But let us also do a public education campaign on the Domestic Violence Act and, you know, go to every nook and cranny of the island. The truth is that the layman sometimes don't even know that we have these legislations to protect them. And so we have to not only, you know, be seated in talk shop, but sometimes we can go to the different streets, lanes, have a conversation with them, tell them about the legislation or laws that we have.
I love that because we're currently doing a series with the Early Childhood Commission, and that's exactly what they're doing. Trying to get the public to understand and make the connection with the convention and what exactly is taking place in the different spaces. It was mentioned earlier, I think it's Joanie that mentioned the play where children is concerned. This is Play Month. So next Tuesday, we're going to have that conversation with the Early Childhood Commission where that is concerned. So it's good that we're heading and seeing the different entities heading in that direction. Anna-Kaye, what's your thought on where we need to go as a country.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, when I consider domestic violence, I not only look at the fact that it takes into consideration intimate partner violence, which is violence between spouses or so, or in a spousal context, but it also looks at abuse of children and elderly and even families. It is abuse or violence against neighbors fighting over different things or violence coming out like that. It is important, I believe, that persons are able to speak up, to just garner that strength to say to someone, all right, I need help here. And there's help that is provided for those persons, whether it be through the form of having that person being removed or protected, or whether it means that this is counseling that would take place to help the person to cope or to deal with the effects or the trauma associated with the domestic violence. So unresolved trauma from domestic violence situation can definitely cause persons to develop that sense of shame or fear or anxiety in speaking. Persons retaliate or fear of being attacked because we speak out. But as Corporal Brown said, police are your friends. They're here to help, and they're here to respond to the needs of persons who are crying for help in these situations and really feel like there is nowhere to turn. But I'm saying tonight that indeed there are different entities, there are different agencies that are gearing and willing to help persons who are faced with these situations. So I would encourage persons to seek counseling or to seek that support. And as Joanie said, support is necessary. Families that are experiencing violence from another family, it is important to speak out to say, all right, this is what is happening, so that intervention can take place, so that healing can take place, so that we can move forward in a more positive way to break that cycle of abuse. Because remember, domestic violence is a cycle. So one moment persons would be fine, and then the next moment they say they're fighting, and persons look on and say, them so good again. As how Jamaicans say, them so good again. We don't need to interfere in that situation, but we might never know what the end result might be and how urgent a situation might be, because sometimes victims in the scenario are not aware of how dangerous or the imminent danger that they're in, because this could be the final straw. So it is important that this is taken seriously and that persons speak up. Thank you.
Right. Joanie.
I must add as well to say that another fun initiative at the Bureau is that we work in the prisons through our co-partner Yard Empire, and something that is always coming out from the conversation is the lack of support for positive parenting. In our country, it's easy to be toxic. And so I want to appeal to the parents. Find a positive mentor for your child. Sometimes the father is absent or the mother is absent. So find that positive male mentor, that positive female mentor. Because a lot of the times when, for example, the male, and just by their experience that they would have shared, when they're in these situations, they don't know what to do. And by speaking to a mentor that is that will come with something negative, and say, oh, leave this situation, or give her a two slap and she will calm down. But if that positive person is in their life to provide the support, to provide them, help them, to guide them, we'll be better able to deal with conflicts. A lot of the times as Jamaican, we're unaware how to deal with conflicts because we don't have that positive support system. So if we have that positive support system, that will reduce some, the argument, because arguments will come, different personalities will clash, but it's how we deal with the situation, the words we say. Parents, be mindful of the words you say to your children. Your words becomes their thoughts. And once it becomes that, they will constantly pass it on to the next generation. So it's something that we have to be mindful, because when we think about domestic violence, always thinking about spousal abuse, but the child seeing the abuse will always continue the cycle. The child, and it may lead to elder abuse as well, because that's a different form that it occurs in, which, and as well as sibling abuse. So we need to be mindful of these.
Serious food for thought there. And remember, the conversation continues. We had a similar conversation in 2024, but we will continue to preach it until we see the change that we want to see happening in our nation. And we invite you to come on board and share. The recording will remain on YouTube, so go ahead and share the link so others who are not able to join us live can get the information they need, the contact details they need to seek help so that we can move forward as a healthier society. Let me thank our panelists for joining us, Corporal Jahvarn Brown, our Assistant Island Coordinator there at the Domestic Violence Intervention Center, JCF, Anna-Kaye Richardson, Social Worker Victim Services Branch in the Ministry of Justice, Joanie James, Social Worker, Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports. I have to slow down for that one. All right, so we're learning about the different ministries as well. Thanks, all informative. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we keep it informative here so that we can get the information we need to act on, so that we can improve our lives and the lives of those around us. And remember, we'll see you again, same time, same place, on Tuesday of next week, God's willing, and then Thursday. The schedule is on our social media platform. Be sure to follow and subscribe, set your notifications so that when the links are shared, you can get notified. For those who prefer WhatsApp, there's a WhatsApp channel, or send a WhatsApp message asking for the link. 876-871-8960 is the WhatsApp number. You can send a request for the link so you can join the WhatsApp channel to get the updates there and watch the previous forum. You're welcome, Leah. Always a pleasure to support our JCF Area 3 team and their partners as we continue to make the changes that we want to see. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the night, and thanks again for joining us, for those who are with us live and those who are watching the replay. The SRC Community Safety and Security Monthly Live Forum is brought to you on second Thursdays at 8 p.m. Brought to you in partnership with the JCF Area 3 Police. Visit our website at www.serenityresourceconnector.com and subscribe to receive our weekly blog post. Join us again on Tuesday at 8 p.m. for a Child Rights series with the Early Childhood Commission. Thank you for watching.